All right, well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all enjoying Intersolar and looking forward to the e-mobility session of the event. Good to see, I think we've got about 10% of Intersolar here, so good turnout, I think, considering the maturity of e-mobility, and it has a nice connection because the government target in Dubai for electric and hybrid vehicles is to have 10% of all government new vehicles to be electric and hybrid by 2020. So, my name is Ben Pullen. I'm the managing director of a company called Global EV IT. We run a series of events to accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles for the creation of smart and sustainable cities. So we do this through two main events. One of them is an electric vehicle road trip, which is all about excitement and engagement and really trying to raise awareness and educate the public to get as many people involved as possible. On the other side, we have a conference similar to this that focuses on e-mobility. So why are we having a session here today? Well, in addition to a very bright future, solar future in the UAE, we believe at Global EV that the UAE is a perfect place for electric vehicles, and we're on the cusp of an electric vehicle boom, which excites us. And there's many factors that support that boom that we see. And only this week, the Dubai Supreme Council of Energy introduced a range of incentives for electric vehicle drivers, including free charging, free parking, free SALIC, which means no tolls on the highways, and some reduction in the registration fees. So the environment is being set for electric vehicle drivers. There's still a bit to do. But here today we've got some of the main players from the UAE who are actively implementing projects and testing out different business models and technologies. And we brought some people from across the world to give an insight into some of the global trends and technologies and some of the solutions that they are working with. So I'll just run you through the order of the speakers. So we've got Zachary Shahan, the Managing Director of CleanTechnica and EV Obsession, so two of the most widely read websites on clean tech and electric vehicles. He'll be introducing the electric vehicle market as we know it today, but more importantly, I think giving us a taste for what's to come in 2020. Then we'll dive into a UAE-based project taking place at Masdar City, or Masdar Clean Energy. Fatima Al-Suwaidi, project engineer, will introduce to us a pilot project that they're working on for an advanced electric bus. Another local example will be given by Karim Al-Jazeer, the executive director at C-Nexus Institute. He'll be running us through the sustainable transport strategy at the Sustainable City, which is one of C-Nexus's projects, and introduce us to a new electric vehicle project that they're working on. Last but not least, we have Olivier Delassou, the Managing Director for Clem France. They'll be highlighting some of the key solutions on offer from their company in the space of electric, connected, autonomous, and shared vehicles. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Zach Shahan.
Thank you very much, Ben. It's a pleasure to be here. Been covering the solar industry and solar for years, so it's funny to give my first big presentation about EVs at a solar conference. But there's a lot of similarity and a lot of difference between the markets, and I think it's important to recognize what the EV market is like today in reference to the solar market maybe 10 years ago. And then also, again, why it's different and why it will transform differently than the solar market. Just get my stopwatch going here so I don't get lost. The electric vehicle market up till now has been a slow-moving transition. Underneath it has been dramatic technological innovation and trends. So the EV battery market, the EV battery price and market has been improving dramatically, but sort of under the surface of the waves, under the surface of the ocean. Because with, what's the, Okay. With many disruptive, transformative technologies, there's dramatic improvement for decades or for years before an inflection point. So we get used to this sort of slow market growth while this technology is improving. So I think a lot of people take for granted how much the technology has improved because of the market today being approximately 1% of new cars, and because of the cars that have been on the market for a few years now, for several years. So when we think of EVs, people often think they have lower range than you need, or they're too expensive for the class they're in, and probably don't notice almost at all that the range has been improving at a significant pace, the price has been coming down at a significant pace, and once we get to a certain inflection point, that all counts. That all means something. So up till now we can say it doesn't count, it's only 1% of the market. This is a criticism you see over and over. So right now, up till this year, we didn't really have long-range affordable electric cars. We had cars with medium range, we had expensive cars like Tesla with long range, but we're now hitting this phase of long-range affordable electric cars. And this is the inflection point, more or less. This is the point where anyone who's been forecasting based on the past is going to be massively disrupted, massively proven incorrect. And if you're following the industry closely, you've been seeing that trend arriving. But if you're not following the industry, which almost nobody is, I don't think you have an appreciation for how ready this market is to explode. So these are cars that have been announced with longer range and affordable prices. The Renault Zoe was actually the first in the European market, with about 150 miles real world range last year and an affordable price tag. And then the Chevy Bolt or Opel Ampera E arrived at the end of last year in the US. And then of course this year Tesla has started producing the Model 3. And for anyone in the room who's not familiar, the Model 3 had over 100,000 reservations before it was shown. Nobody had seen the car. We knew the range was going to be over 200 miles, we knew the price was going to be $35,000, and we knew it was going to be a Tesla. And 115,000 people put down a $1,000 reservation. Within a few weeks, that had risen up to a few 100,000, and now with net cancellations, the last we've heard a couple months ago, Tesla has 455,000 reservations, 500,000 reservations for a $35,000 car. There's nothing like this in the history of the world. There's nothing like this in the history of any market, that this many people have put down $1,000 for a product that they're committing to pay $35,000 to $50,000 to buy. This is a dramatic sign that the market is here, and it's still under the surface because the car is being produced in very limited numbers right now. But if you haven't recognized it by now, you have to understand that the wave is rising, and we're going to see it bust out. It's not only about Tesla. Of course, the thing that Tesla has done is driven other automakers to get to this point faster. Not that they couldn't have, but they either didn't think they could or they didn't want to. I mean, technically, it's a huge financial threat for these large automakers to transition quickly. If it was a 30-year transition, they'd be fine. To transition in a few years from gas cars to primarily plug-in electric cars threatens engine factories they've invested billions of dollars into, threatens IP they've spent decades developing, threatens careers they've spent decades or hundreds of years combined building. The executives at many auto companies came from an expertise in engines. So why would they want a quick transition to electric vehicles right before their retirement? They wouldn't. That disrupts their career, that presents a huge challenge for them. Some of them are more open to it than others. Volkswagen has potentially arrived as a leader, and they plan to electrify, they plan to have 50 fully electric models by 2025, and 30 more plug-in hybrids, or 30 or 50, I might have swapped those, but 80 plug-in vehicles by 2025, plug-in models. And BMW, Daimler, Volvo have been coming out with similar kinds of announcements. The thing is, there are a few remaining technical factors that need to be improved to make those viable, to make those sales viable. One is the chargers. So, historically, every fully electric car that can fast charge can do so at a rate that lets you maybe drive for 2 hours on the highway and charge for an hour. If you want to take a long distance trip, driving for 2 hours and charging for an hour is not very viable. These stations haven't really been placed along routes meant for long distance travel. Tesla went a different route. They produced superchargers that are twice as fast at charging, so you can charge after driving for a few hours, charge for maybe 45 minutes. And they placed them specifically in between major cities that people would be doing long distance driving on. So they've enabled, through thousands of these charging ports, the potential for long distance travel. These larger automakers have been finally started talking about it last year, formed a consortium in Europe, and have started working in the US. But basically there's one super fast charging station at the Porsche dealership, the new Porsche headquarters in Berlin. 300, so quicker than Tesla's even, but it's not operational yet. So you have this dramatic moment in the market where the cars are getting there, the batteries have gotten to the point where they can produce the cars that are affordable and long range, but there's only one network that allows really practical long distance travel and ownership of an EV, and that's Tesla's. So that presents a huge opening for early leaders in super fast charging. I don't know if anyone here is in this market or looking at it, but I think anyone looking at this market has to look not at what fast charging has been, but what it should be and needs to be. And if you consider this an inflection point, which is what I'm going to get to in a second, if you consider this an inflection point in the EV market, it's the growth potential for super fast charging is insane. The growth potential that will be needed for super fast charging to satisfy the customers who are ready to buy the long-range affordable electric cars hitting the market is going to grow tremendously over the next few years. So who's ready to put the capital into that super fast charging? Who's ready to develop these stations? Who's ready to manage the software for these stations? There are a handful of companies getting into it, but it's an interesting wide open segment of the market for me. But let's get back to this inflection point, this growth, disruptive growth trend. We've all seen S curves. I think we too easily discount what an S curve is. If you look at the adoption of cars, dishwashers, color TV, microwaves, cell phones, up to 5%. This is a chart of that. I wish I had a better version of it, but you can see the growth is there a pointer on here? Okay, the growth is it's pretty good. If I had to start up with this growth, I'd be pretty happy. But this is not disruptive growth. And the problem that people have is they think this is the growth of the market that's going to continue. And if you're modeling this, if you're forecasting this, you have a couple of options. You can more or less pay attention to this and do something similar. You can get a little more aggressive with it. Or you can say it's going to be a very different few years, in the coming few years. And then you get put into crazy camp. People treat you like you're crazy if you're projecting such high percentages as you actually end up seeing once you hit that inflection point. So this is a famous chart of technology adoption for different popular technologies, and I tried to pull out where you see this growth up to maybe a few percent and how that changes when you hit an important inflection point. When perhaps 500,000 people order a car that they don't know when will be produced and they hardly know anything about. I mean, if you don't see that as an inflection point in this market, you're missing the story, you're missing the market, and you're missing tremendous market opportunity if you're in that kind of career. So I think it's important, and one of the things I think people ignore a lot is emerging markets. So people focus on the Netherlands, on Norway, on China, on the UK, on markets where EVs are growing. But once the technology is ready, it doesn't matter if you're in a market with great incentives or with good awareness. Once the technology is ready, people in Abu Dhabi or Dubai want the same technology that people in the United States or the UK want. So to think we're behind this other market, we don't need to rush on this, we don't need to be prepared for this technology disruption, is to miss the story. And there's only, there's leaders who identify now as the time, at the right time, and that's basically what I'm telling you. Now, we often assume it's just about the technology getting ready, and that also, I think, misses a critical point. It misses how change happens. It misses how people change their minds. These are a couple of charts. The one on the right is actually a fake quote, but you wouldn't know the difference, actually. And but the point is not about Donald Trump. It's not even about fake news or anything wild that's been happening in the past year. The point I try to make with this is it shocked a lot of people how Donald Trump rose to the position he rose to. Almost nobody in the political world said it was possible up until a very late stage of the primaries and the general election. Even today, if you ask how it happened, there's explanations that involve fake news, that involve the media coverage of Trump, that involve his messaging, that involve 25 years of a smear campaign against Hillary Clinton. But that misses, again, how it actually happened on the ground. Because on the ground, it was about this. Someone thought, I wouldn't vote for him. Someone in their network, maybe on Facebook, started supporting him. And they didn't change their mind. A second person told them they were voting for Trump, or they believed in his ability to do something, who knows what. A third person told them. Once a third person has told you something, that they support something, or they think something is good, they think they should buy something, then you start to wonder, I haven't delved very deeply, I haven't investigated this topic very deeply, maybe I should consider this as well. Now, if a crazy con man like Donald Trump can get elected president based on word of mouth and a little bit of social media manipulation and a little bit of savvy media communication, I mean, imagine what it actually takes. What does it actually take for a new technology or product to get popular? It takes a few people in your network telling you to think about it, basically, and making a simple case for why it's important. And with many technology adoptions of the past, computers, cell phones, smartphones, I think it was basically a couple of core benefits that first led the transition. And the two that stand out to me are convenience and fun. The fun of gaming, the convenience of writing something on a computer and not having to take the paper out and throw it away if you made a mistake. These kind of small conveniences and fun factors led to the early adoption of the technology that led to people saying, this is great, you should get it. And I don't think, very few people had a vision for where this was going to lead. They adopted these technologies, they got into them because they were a little more convenient, a little more fun, or maybe a lot more convenient, a lot more fun, depending on your perspective. Now, we did a survey of over 2,000 electric car drivers in 26 European countries and 49 of 50 US states and 9 Canadian provinces. And we tried to understand, we have a 93-page report on this on CleanTechnica. But one thing we delved into is, why they went electric. And you can see for these early adopters, this 1% market, environmental benefit, I love new tech, financial savings, these were core reasons. But if you think this is what drives is going to drive mass market adoption of electric cars, you completely miss the story and you completely miss the opportunity to create disruptive growth. I think it's critically important that we face up to the global warming challenge. This chart is scary as hell. We're putting our societal existence at risk. But most people are not going to ever look at that chart. They're not going to understand how much pollution harms people's health, no matter how many reports come out about the tens of thousands of people or millions of people globally who die from pollution. This doesn't drive action. I think we should highlight the benefit of clean air, the benefit of a more beautiful, clean, touristic city, a city we want to live in that's quieter and cleaner and we don't have to worry about our kids getting cancer. I think we should be concerned and we should highlight the benefit of not sending billions of dollars or euros or dirhams to import oil. Sorry, we're in the UAE, so I guess this is not the best place to make this case, but the EU and many places are exporting a tremendous amount of money for oil. Now these were not identified as the core reasons people went electric from this initial 1%, but this is a different segment of the market. These are the factors that I think drive electric car adoption to 50% to 100%. And one is the fun or convenience of instant torque. There's nothing like the quiet and powerful instant acceleration drive quality of an electric car. My mom, she's a grandma, she hates driving quick acceleration in a Tesla or something. She loves her Nissan Leaf because it's very quick to get off of a red light, merge into traffic, to quickly get going and not be in a more dangerous situation. The smooth and quiet drive, if you get an electric car and you drive it for a week or two, and then you go back to a gas car, you all of a sudden feel like you're driving a tractor or some kind of rumbling, exploding machine that's not safe to be in. It's a dramatic difference. These benefits of these driving quality benefits are what will drive adoption. The convenience of EV charging. When I first drove EVs, I wrote an article about how bloody awesome the instant torque of an electric car was, and that this would be the #1 reason electric cars went mass market quickly. And then I saw an article some lady wrote in another media outlet that the #1 reason people would go electric was the convenience of them. Every mass media article you read about mentions the inconvenience of public charging of an electric car, right? But not if you have workplace charging and home charging, 97-98% of charging is done at work or at home. There's a lot more convenience to waking up every day and having a fully charged car and never having to go somewhere to charge, or once or maybe 3 or 4 times a year having to go somewhere to charge. There's a lot of nuance to this. People have different living situations, but even at a certain stage, if you live in a block of flats, an apartment building, and you have convenient charging where you live, it's going to be more convenient to drive an electric car than to go to the gas station. And then financial savings will grow and grow as battery prices keep coming down, and because of the low maintenance of electric cars. But if you look at what people care about being entertained. They care about fun. They pursue fun obsessively. They care about themselves, of course. If Mona Lisa had an iPhone, she'd take a selfie probably. They care a little bit about climate change, global warming, the environment, helping people. They care about, more than anything, entertaining themselves and making money for themselves. And these are the factors that electric cars are better with, and these are the reasons electric cars are a disruptive technology, not because of the air quality and climate benefits. So these are more benefits people recognize after they get an electric car, the fun of driving an electric car. People smile, people laugh, people enjoy themselves a great deal. The convenience of home charging, then you can go home, lay on your couch, have an orange juice. This is what you do when you're charging your electric car. Can you see how convenient that is? That's really nice, yeah? This is exactly what I do every time I plug in my Tesla. But it's these factors that drive it. And then the dropping cost of batteries. The price of batteries dropped 40% a couple of years ago in the course of a year or two, a couple of years. That's right after that, a major oil organization expected a 40% drop in battery prices by 2040. I was interviewing Michael Liebrich, the founder of Bloomberg New Energy Finance, right after that, and he highlighted it's completely insane that they would project that the same drop in battery prices we saw in 2 years is going to happen over the course of this long of a period. And you see in forecasts after forecasts, very moderate assumptions for the drop in cost of EV batteries. And that's just not how it's going to be. Even with solar, as we've gotten more and more mature and the price of solar has dropped dramatically, it keeps dropping because technology improves as you scale up. You get experience curves that make a big difference. We'll skip past this, but basically we're hitting the point where EV batteries are becoming, making electric cars cost competitive with gas cars. And then you get into autonomous vehicles, a whole other thing we won't go into right now. This is Sheikh Yamani, former Saudi oil minister. The Stone Age came to an end not for lack of stones, and the oil age will come to an end not for lack of oil. When this was the telephone, the best telephone on the market, this was the best computer on the market, how many people here, or your parents if you're too young, thought that you would have a smartphone in your pocket in your lifetime that would be able to do what it can do? It's easy for us to think, of course this happened, but before it happened, almost everyone misses the point, misses the trend, misses the inflection point and how that accelerates change. So you can't look at the change we've had from 2008 to now, or from 2000 to now, and expect that that's representative of the change we're going to see between now and 2020 or now and 2025. Because electric cars are hitting an inflection point where they're going to shock most people who think that they're far off into the future. And of course, it will be powered by solar energy, and we can drive on sunlight, drive on sunshine, one of my favorite phrases.